right, let's talk Bobby Lashley, because right now he's all over the place. He's down to the AEW with the Hurt Syndicate, smushing smaller guys, telling them if they don't join the syndicate that they're going to beat their ass, or whatever the case may be. So anyway, Bobby Lashley was on this podcast called the Lame Guy Podcast. Now, I really got to pause for a second, because I went over there, and this is a brand new podcast. Like, I'm wondering how they even pulled this, because they only have 575 subscribers. So that's fantastic. So that gives me hope that one day I could get Bianca Belair over here, and me and her could chop it up for about 5-10 minutes, because I got some questions for her that she ain't never heard before. Okay? Anyway, so they was over there on this small podcast called the Lane Podcast, and Bobby Lashley recalled wanting to face Gunther, but he wanted more than just a regular feud. Now, this is the crazy part. So anyway, he was like, when Gunther was rolling, there was one thing I wanted to do with him. And everybody would be like, oh, if we were still the Hurt Business, I was like, I want to roll up on him, and I want Gunther to say, people like you don't deserve a chance at my title. People would have been like, what did he say? We would have told that line. If you think about the German and these black dudes, is there a little bit of racial tension? We didn't have to go there. What do you mean by people like you? He could be like, older guys in wrestling. The crowd would have been like, oh, did he say that? Then I was going to say, I think you look familiar, and do one of these holes on his thumb to his top. Then what? He was going to call him Hitler. There it is. I don't know if we could have went there, but if we could have, there are so many things you could toe the line with there, and it could have been a huge feud. You know what this just told me? That Bobby Lashley got a smooth brain, because nothing about that toes the line. Like, you flat out saying you was going to call him Hitler. You flat out want him to allude to the whole people like you, nappy hair, and the sucker type shit to get a little bit of shit going. So Bobby Lashley the type that you could get him. Well, listen, he is the type, because he was bending over and slapping his ass for a couple weeks when he had Leo Rush over there as his manager. Remember that? You know, this gives me a whole nother view of Bobby Lashley, because for whatever reason, I know a lot of black alpha males, quote unquote, love to play in that race play shit. They like that shit. And if y'all don't talk about, go over to the Manosphere, because sometimes I end up getting Manosphere videos. That's where all the dudes is at, and they be telling the women to get in the kitchen, and you just a baby maker, and don't be talking, and you don't need to vote. Them type of dudes who don't get no pussy, and they super mad. He was giving me Manosphere vibes, because they love leaning into that type of shit. Completely unnecessary. I would have loved to hear what these guys had to say, but unfortunately we had to take the podcast down, so I don't know what went on about that. But this is what I think about this whole shit, because he said that they turned it down, but Gunther ended up using the people like you shit when he ran that shit past Damian Priest. Hence Judgment Day 2.0 calling themselves trash bags and garbage. Street trash. Remember when Gunther was in the ring with Damian Priest? Damian Priest was like, I work hard, and you know I'm from Puerto Rico, and I'm Puerto Rican, I'm from the Bronx, and I work hard, and I done came out the trenches. And Gunther was like, yeah, that's cool, because people like you don't need to be touching my fucking belt. And that's not the other time that they use that people like you shit outside of the infamous AAA shit. If y'all go back and remember when they had Apollo Crews leaning into his Nigerian heritage, but you know he all the way like super white, dipped in black or whatever, leaning into his Nigerian heritage when they had old boy, his bodyguard, him and I believe Big E were feuding, and Big E even did the whole people like you shit, and they was gonna have Apollo Crews do that people like you shit. They was gonna do the infighting within the black community. Now I don't know about y'all, but we black folks, y'all already know how the whole African versus the African American versus the Caribbean versus the whole that little infighting shit that every ethnicity has, because the Latinos differentiate themselves from Mexicans, Venezuelans, and all that. So they was gonna lean into that people like you shit too. And I remember when what's his name, Big E did that whole promo. Y'all remember that? Okay, it was the Nigerian drum fight, that whole feud. And Big E was the Intercontinental Champion. Now, listen, that shit was kind of slept on. Apollo was like getting a push. I don't know what the fuck happened, but they had their match, and that was the end of Apollo Crews' push. Like, it is a very curious case with that man. I don't know. We have to talk about Apollo Crews, but I just thought it was super interesting that Bobby Lashley would even pitch some shit like that and think it was going to go over well with the audience. But see, Bobby, he gives me those type of vibes. Like, he'll do anything just to get with whatever he wants or however he wants it. And if he thought that was going to look good with the Hurt Business, the reason why we like the Hurt Business is because they wasn't doing that dumb shit that black dudes usually do. They wear suits, they move slick and smooth, they get the job done. You trying to inject some racial tension is just dumb. Like, the fuck? I'm glad they was like, no, you dummy. Just stand there and look big and do what you need to do. I wonder, now, y'all heard it here first. See if he pulls that shit in AEW. I'm going to be watching if he going to have, because you know, they do say that Moxley's crew is a knockoff of that Romper Stomper shit, which I had to go watch. It's a movie about some neo-Nazis in Australia. They said John Moxley acting like a neo-Nazi child, so maybe they're going to try to have a little race war over in AEW. They like that type of shit, the sickos. Y'all tell me what y'all think about this in the comments, though. Check you later.